Hello there, my name is Harish Shah, and I'm that guy whom they call the Singapore Futurist. And I'm recording this video on the 10th of July of the year 2025. And in this video, I will talk about a topic, a subject matter that I've been talking about a lot ever since I began as a full-time professional futurologist back in 2013 at a very high frequency. And that topic is the future of work, the future of jobs. Now, why is it that in the year 2025, after half of it is over, on the 10th of July, one third of the way into the month of July in the year 2025, since I've been talking about this topic, this subject so much over the past 12 years, why do I have to talk about it again? It's very simple. Much of the talk this year, if you've not been talking about the armed conflicts, the wars, the trade wars, the tariff wars, much of the talk in many parts of the developed world, not the underdeveloped world, not the developing world, but I'm talking about just developing countries herein. The rest will follow suit, but that is then. Let's talk about the now. The developed world. Much of the talk for much of 2025 has been layoffs, restructuring, job cuts, retrenchment, underemployment, growing unemployment, growing youth underemployment, growing youth unemployment, graduates not being able to find jobs 1 year after graduation, and in some parts of the world, some cities, some places, graduates who graduated from good universities with esteemed degrees, 2023, it's 2025, they're still not in satisfactory employment where the job is a match for their skills, their qualification, for what they studied, what they aspired to do after graduation. Now, how did we arrive here? The first quarter of the 21st century, the first 25 years, have been defined by unprecedented, unparalleled, exponential technological evolution at many levels, right? Scale, breadth, extent, the amount of disruptions that the evolution has caused at every stage and phase over the last 25 years. The sort of technological evolution that back in the year 1990, that's not too long ago relatively, if you talk about the first quarter of the 21st century. In the year 1990, if you had just talked about some of it to the foremost technological engineering minds of the time, they would have reckoned that you are someone who belongs in a psychiatric institution. And I'm not exaggerating here, this is not figuratively speaking, this is not a joke, right? Uh, this is no tongue in cheek. They would have literally the foremost technological minds of the year 1990. Had you told them that you'd see the kind of technological evolution we'd see in the first quarter of the 21st century, they would have genuinely believed that you belong in an institution of psychiatric care. Now, that said and done, with all the technological evolution that we've been seeing for the past 25 years, it has completely evolved, terraformed our very human experience, our very human society, how it functions, what we consume, how we consume it, how we acquire it, how transactions are made, how we interact with each other, how we learn. Everything has completely terraformed, completely changed. Most of the old methods that we were so used to and used to take for granted before the year 2000 are now completely displaced or obsolete. Now, that said and done, the way work then has to happen, or the type of work that is required, the type of output, commercial output that needs to happen, they've all changed drastically. They're completely different from what they used to be 25 years ago. But what's not changed over the last 25 years? And this is where I answer the question, how did we get here where we are increasingly talking about in the year 2025 youth unemployment, graduate unemployment, good graduates from good universities with good university degrees not being able to find the jobs that they would like to see themselves in. How did we get here? A lot has changed technologically and socio-technically, but nothing has changed in our mentality, mindset, or mental model approach to work. The mindset, the human collective mindset, the human collective mental model when it comes to work, when it comes to occupation, when it comes to career trajectory, all of it is still stuck in the 20th century. Now, there have been large corporations in the past, there have been global MNCs, global conglomerates. These will continue as far as is evidently foreseeable into the future. There will always be very large corporations of the size of Meta, Alphabet, right? Technological firms like Microsoft, like big FMCG firms like Johnson and Johnson, for example, like Unilever, for example. There'll always be large companies, right, with a lot of huge financial resources, big brand names, huge reach, huge market footprints across the globe. There'll be companies like that. There'll be a lot more that will emerge in the next 25 years. Companies as such, large corporations with global footprints that have emerged in the last 25 years. But what will be different is the kind of size and skills that we've seen of some of the larger companies in the form of the manpower, the number of employees that they hire and retain. That's no longer going to happen in the future. Companies today that hire and employ or retain more staff, more manpower globally than the sizes of entire national populations of some of the smaller or lesser populated countries, those sorts of companies are not going to hire as many people anymore. They're not going to retain as many people anymore, or they're not going to exist anymore. In future, yes, there'll be large companies, large brand name companies, large MNCs with global reach, huge resources, financial resources, logistical infrastructure, distribution means, manufacturing means. There'll be companies like that, but not just the sort that we've seen in the past, hiring like, 80,000, 90,000, 100,000 plus employees. Those kinds of companies are not going to be around. You're not going to see companies do that sort of thing with manpower anymore. Throughout human history, a few people have initiated industry. A few people have created jobs. A few people have employed, and the vast majority have worked on a salaried employment basis or a wage-based employment system. The future differs here, as in not a few, but many people, a lot more people, a lot more in terms of percentage and proportion of the human populace will initiate enterprise, will initiate new industries, but it'll still be very few people creating jobs for others and employing others. That will remain a constant, that will remain the same for as far as is foreseeable in the future ahead. But what will be different is that those few people at the very top of the pyramid of hiring, of employing, they'll be hiring a lot less. What I'm trying to tell you is that the pyramid of salaried or wage-based employment is going to be as skinny as I am. Now, that said and done, what it means is that we are moving, we're transitioning now, and we are at the cusp of the transition end, right? We're at the cusp of an era of self-employment where you no longer go to school or a tertiary institution, you no longer go to a university to get a bachelor's degree or master's degree, right? To get a job. You do that, you go to school, you go to university, you get your degree, you get your master's degree to enable and empower yourself with the knowledge, skills, aptitudes, other attributes, the basic HR KSAOs. You empower yourself with those to be able to start something of your own on your own, to be a intellectual or a wisdom gig worker with a certain speciality about you, something unique about you that only you can offer and others cannot, which is why you have some value and you place yourself on the market. By and large, if you look at the past decade, when we talk about gig work, we're talking about the lower end, lower skill, delivery type of jobs, right? Like those really low level jobs, low paying, low skill kind of work. But that's precisely not what gig work was ever supposed to be about when it was first conceptualized. The notion of gig based economy, gig work. People were not thinking private hire vehicle drivers. People were not thinking delivery personnel, right? Or on small piece rate gigs for per run. That was not how it was supposed to be. It was not supposed to be low skill. When we talk about the initial conceptualization of gig work decades ago in research, in hypothesis, in theory, the idea was of the wisdom worker. Someone has developed wisdom. Someone is a little higher than the knowledge worker who would then charge a fee for being a plug and play asset into a scheme of things to create something new, collaborate to produce something that's not been done before, and then move on to doing something else, somewhere else, after that project is over, or to fulfill a certain immediate cost need where, well, I do have to spend on this because I don't want to consider hiring someone permanently to do something like this because it's not going to be worth it. This is not something I can do myself. So on a temporary basis, I'm going to bring someone else to complete this project for me. I'm going to see how it's going to be done. I'm going to see how it's going to be automated. And once it's up and running, I say goodbye to that person and wish that person all the best to move on somewhere else. And I pay that person's due. So that's what the future of work is going to have to look like. It's the social technical reality that has come to be as a direct result of the technological evolution of the past 25 years, where it's all about plug and play wisdom work. And that's the sort of gig economy that we are entering, where the top talent, the best talents, are not even supposed to be going out there to look for jobs. They're supposed to try to create something of their own and maybe hopefully create a few jobs for some other people, right? So what the future is likely, most probably going to look like, actually it's pretty much going to look like that, where it's going to be a few people still, like in the past, creating jobs, but not as many jobs that are salaried or wage based or long term, right? With a fixed guaranteed income on an annual basis. That's not what the future of work or jobs is going to look like. There will be jobs, there'll be few jobs, but increasingly having to work in a job for someone else rather than either working for yourself or employing others to work for you is going to be increasingly unflattering. Not universally, not as a broad brush entirely, there's always going to be value for high skilled talent in salary jobs in certain sectors, in certain types of companies. There will be companies like that, certain large companies, but increasingly the trend is going to be if you have to work for someone else, it's an unflattering idea for the vast majority of people, right? That's how it's going to turn out to be. So what's happened here? Where is the disconnect? Where it's not like there's no work in the world out there, that things don't have to get done. But where's the mismatch? The mismatch is in the mentality, the mindset, the mental model, where the past 25 years society and the education system along with it has not evolved in tandem with the technological evolution and the socio-technical evolution as to how work is changing, how work processes, how business commercial processes are changing, how industrial processes, manufacturing distribution processes, how they are changing, right? Increasingly, e-commerce is something that's getting automated. It was always going to be that way. It was supposed to be that way. It took a while, surprisingly long, that it's only getting automated now, as much as it is getting automated now. And it's only going to continue at a very rapid pace to be automated to such an extent that you need very, very few people to manage end-to-end e-commerce processes for a good number of large companies we just won't have those many jobs to employ people into, right? So, what does the rest of the human society do? Those of us who are of the working age, what do? We do wisdom work on gigs. You pretty much become like what I've been doing for the last 12 years of my life as a consultant, as a coach. I work on assignments, on gigs that I get for tapping on my own independent, continuous research, my own wisdom, my own knowledge. So there'll be more people like me in the world. And well, that's kind of a bit, you know, unflattering because it's been something I've considered special for myself that not too many people can, survive the way that I do. But it's going to be a lot more common and a lot less flattering in that sense as well, where, I won't be that rare anymore. But that's what the future of work looks like. Not everyone is going to be doing just conceptual work of the nature that I do, but a lot of people will be doing very technical work. Also, on the same wisdom work, gig basis, where they will not see themselves in salaried employment and wage based employment. And that's actually something that's supposed to be a good thing. And over time, people will eventually come to see it as a much better thing than what's been in the past. But right now, people don't. People are afraid of that concept. Why? Because human society has failed to evolve in that direction in its mindset about work, occupation, careers, jobs, etc. I'm the Singapore Futurist. Want to talk about it more? Give me a call.